Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change the oil in this 2006 Arctic Cat four-wheel drive 500cc quad. I'm just getting it ready for the season, but I thought I'd go ahead and do a little video in case anybody's curious as to the process. So basically, the seat will come off, and it's kind of hard to do this one-handed, but this little panel is held on by these three little clips. I thought I would take those off just to kind of prep it. Now there is the oil filter. Underneath here is going to be a skid plate with a couple holes in it, and if I squeeze right under there, you can see the bolt head for the drain plug. So I'm gonna go ahead and warm this up for a couple minutes, get the oil drained, the filter pulled off, and get it ready for some fresh oil. Okay, I went ahead and let this thing run for a few minutes to warm that oil up so it'll drain a little easier. Now, I'm just gonna crack this dipstick loose. One thing I do want to point out, this does show how much fluid goes in this case. So this says 2,500 milliliters, so that's gonna be roughly 2.5 quarts of oil. So I'll put a little conversion in here. Just don't overfill it. Slowly add the oil in there and then check after you've got about 2 to 2.25 up to 2.5 quarts of oil when you put the new oil in. I've got my oil pan under here, 21 millimeter socket and ratchet. Break that loose. Pan, that's it. Go ahead and let it drain. While that is draining, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that filter off, get the new one put on. While that oil is draining, I cleaned the plug off. There's one thing that I really wanted to point out. If you're unaware of it and you're curious as to how your engine is doing, especially if you have an older quad, these plugs, inside there's actually a magnet. And what that's designed for is to pick up any little pieces of metal, things that might be wearing or coming through. So if you're going to change your own oil, I would suggest you check that magnet just to kind of get a sense of what might be in there, because you'll see the little pieces of flakes or metal, anything that's inside of there. But I just wanted to point that out for you. Let's get that old filter off of there. I've got the old filter off. The spillage was minimal while the oil is still draining. I cleaned that off. I'm getting ready to put the new K&N filter on. One thing that I shouldn't have to point out, and if I should have to point it out, maybe you should have somebody else changing your oil. This plastic cap does have to come off. What it's going to expose is an O-ring under here. Take some new clean oil and put just a thin layer on there. That'll help lubricate that O-ring, which will help seal. Again, with some fresh oil, just a small little dab on that O-ring will help it seal and set. Okay, with that O-ring lubed, I'm just gonna spin that on there. You want it good and snug, but you don't want it over tight, because then you'll just fight it trying to get it off next oil change. Got that drain plug put back in. Gonna snug it down. And then what I'll do is wipe all that off just to make sure that when I do start the engine after the oil is put back in, that I can check for leaks and make sure there are none. Not a ton of room to get in here, but slow and steady, I should hopefully be able to do this without making too big of a mess. The new oil is in. I put right at 2.5 quarts in there. And hopefully I can get this to show with the light, but it is right where it needs to be. I'll put that back in there. One other thing I want to point out real quickly is that if you look at the side, this is Pennzoil, but it literally shows you how many milliliters. So my wife's quad runs 2,900 milliliters, mine runs 2,500 milliliters, so you can easily do the math work and make sure you have the right amount in there. Quick recap, the new oil filter is on there. Dipstick is in and tightened, as well as the oil plug in and tightened. Now I just need to start it up. I'm gonna let it run for a few minutes. make sure there's no leaks. If there's no leaks, I'll put the seat and the panel back on the other side and it'll be ready for the trail. I've had it running for about 3 or 4 minutes now. No leaks behind the oil filter, all is well. I checked that and underneath, as well as where the drain plug's at. So we are ready to go. If you're thinking about changing your own oil, I would encourage it. There is the simple, easy process.